Well, thank you for singing that song. Be still.
多謝大家唱剛才嗰首詩歌。
I'm a pastor of a Presbyterian church in Seattle, Washington.
我係響西雅圖嘅長老會裏邊牧會。
I first came to Hong Kong in 1964.
我1964年嚟香港。
Before some of you were even born.
可能在座有啲同工仲未出世。
And I was on my way to Manila.
當時我就順道去馬尼拉。
With my wife and one little child.
當時同埋我嘅師母同埋一個嘅細蚊仔。
And we were there for 6 years.
咁我就喺嗰陣時就喺馬尼拉牧會有6年嘅時間。
Had 2 more children born there.
咁就更多有2個細蚊仔就喺馬尼拉出世。
And then went to the United States where I continued my ministry in Berkeley.
咁後來我就喺呢一個嘅伯克萊呢個地方裏邊牧會。
And then Seattle.
然後就翻去西雅圖呢個大學長老會。
So it's a joy to be here in Hong Kong again.
今日好開心再一次嚟到香港。
I have been here a number of times since 1964.
自從64年之嚟，我有好幾次都喺香港。
So I guess I can say I have seen this city change.
我就睇到香港係經歷好多嘅轉變。
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just amazing.
係非常嘅令人嘅驚奇。
And I salute each of you as pastors here.
我係向在座每位嘅牧者表達我嘅敬意。
You're in a very important place.
你係喺一個好重要嘅位置裏邊。
Yesterday, I had the privilege of being at China Graduate School Theology.
昨天早晨我有機會喺中神嘅組會裏邊同佢哋分享。
And I had been there in 1985.
我85年嘅時候曾經去過中神。
For 1 week of lectures.
係有1個星期嘅講座。
And I just am amazed at how China Graduate School Theology has grown.
咁我都睇得到呢個中神佢嗰個外貌嗰個嘅轉變。
So I am so grateful for that as well.
咁我都同樣睇到香港個神學教育嗰個發展維持感恩。
But I know there's Alliance Seminary too.
咁我同樣都知道有建道神學院。
And the Baptist Seminary.
都有其他嘅浸神。
And Chungchi.
有崇基。
So it's wonderful.
仲有其他冇提到嘅神學院都係一樣都好令人驚奇。
Saint Paul is a friend to pastors.
保羅係我哋牧者嘅朋友。
And I want today to do a Bible study from St. Paul's letter to the Romans.
咁我今日就同大家一齊去查考羅馬書，去睇睇保羅點樣成為我哋嘅幫助。
And then begin with 2 Timothy, a letter he wrote to a young friend.
咁同樣都會用呢個提摩太後書第1章
In which Paul helps us to be Christians in a difficult time.
就係當保羅寫信俾提摩太嘅時候，就話俾佢聽喺一個困難嘅處境裏邊，點樣嚟到繼續嘅侍奉。
St. Paul is a contemporary of Nero, the emperor of Rome, who was emperor from 54 to 68.
我哋可以睇到保羅同時代嘅就係呢個尼祿係做羅馬嘅皇帝，都係喺嗰個嘅時間裏邊。
Paul writes his letters during that emperor's time.
保羅就喺尼祿執政嘅時候嚟到寫呢一卷嘅書。
The Christians are suffering because of the evil of Nero.
因為當時嘅基督徒就係受呢個尼祿嘅迫害，就係一個受苦嘅處境裏邊。
Paul himself will be imprisoned in Rome during Nero's time.
而呢一個嘅保羅就喺呢個羅馬裏邊呢度坐緊監。
And Paul will write to the Roman Christians from Ephesus, probably, write to them while they live during that time.
而保羅就亦可能喺以弗所嘅時候就寫信係俾羅馬嘅教會。
So the question is, how do you stay a Christian and how do you stay healthy in that kind of time?
嗰個問題就係你點樣能夠仍然係活得似一個嘅基督徒，同樣係有活力喺一個困難嘅處境裏邊。
And yet the Christians do stay healthy.
但基督徒都仍然喺當中係可以繼續嘅嚟成長。
And St. Paul is able to win people to Christ in that time.
而保羅都同佢能夠帶領人信主喺一個咁嘅艱難嘅時期裏邊。
Especially slaves and prison guards.
佢特別嘅
prison guards.
就係佢特別係拯救咗當時嘅獄卒。
Paul was in prison so many times, he had a chance to witness to the guards.
而保羅就係有機會向啲獄卒嚟到作見證。
So he reaches people across the whole spectrum.
所以保羅所接觸嘅呢個社會嘅階層係好闊嘅。
And I think what he will help us in Romans is to help us understand how to live in that kind of time.
而保羅就係透過羅馬書教導我哋點樣喺一個咁嘅處境裏邊嚟到繼續嘅嚟到生活，
How to be a pastor in that kind of time.
點樣嚟到係繼續去牧養教會。
Now, in 2 Timothy, he writes to a young pastor.
然後喺提摩太後書佢又寫俾一位年青嘅牧者，
This young pastor is named Timothy.
而呢一個年青牧者就係提摩太。
Paul calls him his son, though he's not really his son.
保羅稱呼佢係我嘅兒子，當然實際上冇血緣嘅關係。
Timothy's mother was Jewish, and his father was Greek, but the father either died or left.
咁我就話提摩太嘅母親係猶太人，佢父親係希臘人，佢嘅父親一係就早死，一係就撇開嚟就嚟到係抌低咗佢哋。
So Timothy's mother and her mother, Timothy's grandmother, raised this boy.
於是提摩太就由佢嘅母親同埋佢嘅呢一個外母嚟到係湊大，
And they did it very well.
而佢哋做得好好。
This is a great success story of a single parent raising a child very well.
咁於是就俾我睇一個單親嘅家庭點樣嚟到係去養大一個嘅細蚊仔，
It shows it can be done.
俾我睇得到其實係可以做得到。
And then Timothy adopts or borrows St. Paul as his father and mentor.
於是提摩太就嚟到認呢一個嘅保羅作為佢屬靈嘅師傅，
And travels with Paul.
就同保羅一齊嘅喺呢個宣教嘅行程裏邊。
And the last letter that Paul wrote while he was in prison was to this young man.
而保羅最後所寫嘅書信就係寫俾呢一個嘅年青人，
And that is 2 Timothy.
而呢個就係提摩太後書。
Let me read from it.
我就
This
同
is
大家嚟到讀呢個提摩太後書，
chapter 1,
大家手上面有經文㗎啦。
verse 3.
我哋就讀呢一個嘅第一章由第3節開始。
I thank God whom I serve with a clear conscience, as did my fathers, when I remember you constantly in my prayers.
我感謝神，就係我接續祖先用清潔嘅良心所侍奉嘅神，祈禱嘅時候不住的想念你。
I remember your tears. I long night and day to see you, that I may be filled with joy.
紀念你嘅眼淚，晝夜切切地想要見你，好叫我滿心快樂。
Notice how much Paul loves this young man.
我睇到保羅係何等愛呢一個嘅年青人。
This young man brings joy to Paul's life.
呢個年青人係帶俾保羅，佢內心係滿有喜樂。
And so he tells him that.
於是就佢話俾佢聽。
Now listen to this. I am reminded, or in other words, I remember, he's using that word now 3 times.
然後佢就用呢一個我提醒你係用咗有3次。
I remember your sincere faith, a faith that dwelt first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice.
就係我係嚟到係去想到你呢個無偽之信，呢、個信首先係你外祖母羅爾同埋你母親友尼基心裏。
These 2 women, see, raised that boy.
我哋睇呢兩個嘅婦人嚟到係去湊大呢一個提摩太，
And they were believers.
而佢哋都係信徒。
The power of a woman who's a believer
就話我哋睇到一個嘅姊妹，佢嗰種嘅能力
on that boy.
就係喺呢個年青人身上邊。
And Paul says, I'm sure that faith dwells in you.
而保羅就話呢一個嘅信心繼續喺裏邊嚟到成長。
Therefore, I remind you
佢為此我提醒你，
to rekindle the gift of God that is within you.
嚟到係將我按手所給你嘅恩賜如火挑旺起來。
And when he says the laying on of hands here, he means I myself know about that gift that you have.
佢當到按手嘅時候就話我已經知道喺裏邊嘅嗰種屬靈嘅恩賜。
Now here is the sentence I want you to hear.
然後跟住呢一節就係我要大家留心嘅，
For God
因為神所俾過我哋嘅
did not give us a spirit of timidity.
唔係膽怯嘅心。
All right. The word timidity
而呢度所講嘅膽怯
is this Greek word.
就係用呢一個希臘文嚟到表達。
Delirious
delirious
is the word.
就係用呢個字嚟到表達。
That word is the same word used in the text you quoted.
就係用嗰段嘅經文就係剛才余牧師所讀嘅。
When the disciples were on board ship,
當呢一個嘅門徒喺船上邊嘅時候，
and when they saw the storm,
當佢哋睇見呢個風暴嚟嘅時候，
the text says they were afraid.
經文裏邊就講，他們就懼怕。
But this is the word that's used.
就其實佢所用嘅字就係講，就係用呢一個同樣係膽怯呢一個嘅字。
It's only used 2 or 3 times in the New Testament.
喺新約裏邊，即係用咗2次至3次。
And it means disorienting fear.
就係講到一種係迷失咗方向嘅懼怕。
The fear that confuses you.
嗰種嘅懼怕令到你落喺一種混亂嘅狀況裏邊。
Let me tell you, there are several words for fear in the New Testament.
喺新約裏邊，當講到懼怕嘅時候，用幾個唔同嘅希臘文。
The common word is phobeo, phobic.
最簡單嘅用 phobios 呢個字。
We get phobia from
咁
that
今日
word.
嘅所謂呢一個乜嘢嘅 phobia， 即係就係由呢個字恐懼症就係從呢個字而嚟啦。
That's the common word.
呢一個恐懼症就係呢一個最普通嘅一個字眼。
One of the other words for fear is the word trauma.
咁另一個就係用 trauma 呢一個字嚟到表達，
That means to quake.
就係話到係喺一個搖動嘅狀況裏邊。
For instance, that's why in a hospital, the trauma room is where the patients are still quaking.
咁所以大家知喺醫院裏邊都有一個嘅病房，就專門治理呢啲都仍然係一種係唔能夠停止震動嘅搖動嘅呢一個嘅病人。
Paul uses that word in Philippians when he says, with fear and trembling.
所以保羅喺腓立比書裏面，你係恐懼戰驚，就係用呢一個字嚟表達戰驚。
The third word is turo.
然後第三個希臘文就係 turo 呢個字。
We get the English word terror from
咁
that
我哋
word.
就從呢個希臘文裏演變，就成為今日所講嘅恐怖 terror 呢個字。
And that's the word shock.
然後就係一種震驚。
Paul says, don't be shocked.
保羅就話不要受震驚。
That's the word he uses in Philippians when he says, don't be shocked when you see evil.
保羅話：當你見到呢個邪惡嘅時候，唔好因此而嚟震驚。
Okay, now I've given you all the fear words.
咁我已經俾咗大家有關唔同嘅懼怕呢一個字。
The one is the common word, phobia.
就係
Phobia.
最簡單嘅就係恐懼，普通嘅懼怕。
Now, you should have phobia with cobras.
咁當你係有某一啲嘅即係傳染病嘅時候，你應該係有呢種嘅懼怕。
But when you meet one, you shouldn't turo. You shouldn't be surprised.
咁但你亦唔應該係遇到一啲突發嘅事情，有嗰種嘅震驚嘅表現。
You shouldn't have deliria so that you are disorganized.
你唔應該有呢種嘅膽怯，以致你落喺一種咧係好混亂嘅狀況裏邊。
And you might tremble.
你當然可能會戰驚。
But this word deliria is the word he uses with Timothy. Notice, God did not give you the spirit of disorganized fear.
所以保羅呢度就話：神所俾過你嘅就唔係嗰支係唔能夠組織，係一種混亂嘅呢一種嘅懼怕嘅情況裏邊。
He doesn't want you to, when you're afraid, to go in every direction.
當你落喺懼怕嘅時候，你唔係就周圍走係咁走，但你唔知個方向喺邊度。
So, he didn't give you the spirit of deliria,
佢唔係俾你呢個膽怯嘅心，
but of power,
而係剛強、
love, that's
仁
agape,
愛。
and now here's the third word I want you to learn.
咁然後第三個字，我要特別大家留心嘅就係緊守呢個字。Sophrono 呢一個字，
Phrono in Greek means mind.
呢個 phrono 呢個字喺希臘文裏邊就係指到心思，我哋嘅思想，
It means mind.
就係我哋嘅思想。
In medicine, they use it to refer to the frontal part of the brain.
而喺呢個嘅醫學裏邊就指到我哋嘅前腦，
It's the part of the brain that decides perspective.
就係呢一個前腦就讓我哋去確定我哋睇事物嘅嗰個嘅視野。然後 eso 呢一個希臘文呢，
Means safe. It's the words from soter, salvation.
就係講到係呢一個
Safe
拯救，就係呢一個 safe 呢個英文字，
Or healthy.
或者係健康呢一個嘅字。
So here's what Paul is telling Timothy.
所以保羅就話俾提摩太講，
God did not give you a spirit of delirious,
保羅話提摩太神所俾過你嘅唔係一個膽怯嘅心，
He gave you power,
而係俾你能力，
love,
俾你愛，
and a healthy mind.
同埋一個健康嘅心思。
Now, your text, the RSV says self-control.
咁所以喺呢一個 RSV 嘅譯本裏邊，因為佢全部都用啲 RSV 嘅譯本咧，就係講到 呢一個嘅緊守嘅心。
I like healthy mind better.
咁我就覺得喺個翻譯上邊咧係用呢個緊守唔係太適當，我就反而喜歡咧一個健康嘅心思。
A healthy mind.
一個健康嘅心思。
Now, how do you keep a healthy mind?
你點樣能夠去保持一個清醒嘅頭腦呢？
Now move over to Romans 12.
咁然後我哋就去到羅馬書12章啦，同樣經文咧已經印咗俾大家。
The reason is he's going to use that word again.
佢就同樣再用呢一個字。
And I want you to see the way he uses it in Romans.
我哋睇睇保羅點樣去用呢一個嘅字。
All right. And when you get to Romans 12, St. Paul is going to try to help the Roman Christians to live with a strategy for evangelism and mission in the era in which Nero lives.
嗱，保羅當佢寫呢個羅馬書嘅時候，就其實要鼓勵當時嘅基督徒，就喺呢個尼祿嘅執政底下，點樣仍然係能夠擴展呢一個嘅福音。
All right. Notice how it starts.
我哋睇睇
I encourage you, that's the word encourage there, appeal to you.
呢個就係一開始嘅時候嘅弟兄們，我以神嘅慈悲勸你們。
Therefore, brothers and sisters, because of the mercies of God.
就因為神嘅慈悲。
The mercies here is the Greek word that means the concrete acts of God's love.
呢一個嘅慈悲呢個字就係講到神好具體嘅愛表露出來。
It's the word oiktromis, which means concrete acts of God's love. It's one of the love words in the New Testament.
喺新約裏邊用呢個字好多時係表達到嗰種嘅愛，而呢個愛係透過具體嘅行動嚟到表達出嚟嘅。
In other words, because of the love of God that you have seen, that God has shown to you,
就
because of that,
因為神嘅愛已經喺你身上邊好清楚嘅表露咗出嚟，你哋係睇見嘅。
present your bodies as a living sacrifice.
於是就將你嘅身體當作活祭嚟到獻上。
Now notice the surprise. We ordinarily think of sacrifices as dead,
因為好多時候我哋所睇獻嘅祭係一個死嘅祭，
aren't they? An animal that's dead.
因為我哋所獻嗰啲祭牲已經殺死咗，佢哋係死嘅，
Or wheat or grain that has already been cut.
或者佢已經係切割咗出嚟嘅啦。
But Paul surprises us.
保羅呢就令到我哋覺得好驚奇。
God does not want your dead bodies.
保羅話：神唔要你呢個死嘅身體，
He doesn't want you with arms that have needles stuck through them.
佢唔係要你嗰個嘅手臂已經係有嗰個釘穿過去。
That doesn't please him.
呢一樣嘢唔會令到神喜悅，
He wants you alive.
因為神係想你係能夠活生生嘅，
Alive.
係充滿活力嘅。
He wants your body alive.
佢係想你嘅身體係充滿活力。
So he's saying present your real self.
佢話就係能夠將你嘅真我嚟到係呈獻俾神。
And then he says this is holy and acceptable to God.
佢就係呢個係聖潔，係神所喜悅嘅，
It's what God wants from you.
就係神所悅納嘅。
It is your spiritual worship.
而呢一個就係你喺神嘅面前所獻上屬靈嘅嗰個嘅敬拜或者侍奉。
In other words, because of the concrete love of God, present yourself to God.
因為神呢個好具體嘅愛喺你身上，所以你將你嘅身體獻上。
Do not let the world squeeze you. That's the word conform, schema. Conform means to squeeze.
呢就唔好讓呢個嘅世界嚟到係去令到你係受佢嚟到係去感染。
In other words, don't let the world define you.
唔好讓世界嚟到界定你嗰個嘅存在。
So you're defined by the love of God.
你係由神嘅愛嚟到為你作嗰個定義，唔係由世界嚟去成為你嘅標準。
So do not let the world squeeze you into its mold.
唔好讓世界嚟到令你成為佢嘅嗰個嘅樣式，
But be transformed.
而係需要嚟到係更新轉變。
So the two words, schema means to be squeezed down or pressed down. Transformed means to be changed from within.
一方面你就係受世界嘅壓力，以致你係變成咗一個好 扭曲嘅一個嘅人，而另一方面用 transform 呢個字就係表達你係得到嗰種變化，以至脱離咗呢種扭曲嘅嗰種嘅情況。
And the Greek word there is metamorphosis.
咁所以就用呢一個希臘文變化嚟到表達，
Being changed from within.
就係裏邊所產生嘅嗰種嘅轉變，
By the renewal of your mind,
就係透過你嘅心意更新，
so that you may discover, discover
以至你能夠察驗
the will of God,
神嘅旨意，
then you'll discover that it's good.
你就發現原來神嘅旨意係良善嘅。
Another one of the love words in the New Testament.
就係另一個表達神愛嘅字，
This is the Greek word agathos, which is one of the love words, like oiktremis was mercies. Now he gets another love word, good. It's
咁所以呢
good.
個良善亦係另一個字，好多時候新約裏邊用嚟表達神嘅愛，
It's acceptable.
係然後一個嘅神所
It means
喜悅嘅，
It's right. It's right.
係正確嘅，
And it's complete.
然後佢係呢一個嘅純全，
It's complete.
係完全嘅，
It fulfills.
係已經得到嗰種嘅完成就。
All right, now